please welcome Lee Cuthbert.
That's great that there are so many people here. How many are camera ready folks? Okay, good. And have you all had experience putting location photos into Real Scout? Okay. I'm going to start just to give you a little bit of background information. There are 4 of us in the film office. Craig Dominy, who I think you know, is the senior locations person, and I am his junior associate. And then Lee Thomas is our director, and she at the last minute had to stay in Atlanta today. And Allison Fitton is a project manager in our office. What generally happens is we will get a phone call or an email from, it could be, generally it's a producer, it can be a location manager, it can be, you know, somebody at the top of the production team for a movie or a television show, whatever they've got. Sometimes it's a commercial, and they'll say anything from, here's a copy of the script, and give us no information, and we read it and then put together a list of locations that they need. Or they will say very specifically, and this drives me nuts, I need a house with a garage and granite countertops. Right. We don't get into quite that level of detail. So there are a lot of times when we get crazy requests, when we're going to be reaching out to folks in the community, and we start by going to the camera ready contact for the county, and we assume then that they have a network of folks that they go to for answers. And the program has been so successful, we're finding a lot of locations we didn't know about, and we can be very specific and give these folks really what they're looking for, and not just a, you know, try this. So it's been great. We, again, often read the script and put together a locations list ourselves. We are most often probably asked for hospitals and prisons. I guess a lot of life-changing events happen in a hospital or a prison, so those are probably the things we get asked for the most. In mansions, we get a lot of requests for mansions. But after that, it gets very, it gets very specific and very, for this project, it must be this. And it can be, again, a description of a home or a business. I mean, I'll have people ask me, I need a dry cleaners in a small town. You know, we don't have a dry cleaners in a small town, and that's when we're going to reach out to the camera ready folks. I will say that having good pictures is incredibly important, because the way Real Scout works is it's a database of photographs with information attached, and we'll get to that. As much information as you can put in when you upload photos would be much appreciated. But we have over 4,000 images now, in Real Scout, and everything is categorized by type. It can be, for example, under residence types might have loft apartments, mansions, high-income homes, low-income homes, housing projects. So I could quickly just say, pull up anything that's in low-income homes, and boom, I'll send them a package of images. I want to backtrack a little bit and tell y'all, Atlanta has what's called a zone. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But in order for productions to not have to pay travel and expense and or lodging to their crew, they need to stay generally within 30 miles of Atlanta. Now that floats a little bit depending on where their production office is. This is a very inexact science. And this is something that they negotiate with the unions before they go into production. So a lot of what we see is from Noonan over to Covington, up to Cartersville, and a little bit west. But there are a lot of projects that are happy to move outside that area. If they need mountain areas, if they need coastline, if they need plains. I mean, really, that puts them all outside the zone. And so a lot of our images we have a lot more density inside that 30-mile area around Atlanta than we do out across the state. So without much more blathering, we put together some examples of good pictures and bad pictures, and we had a lot of fun with this. These are all things that people actually send into Real Scout. And I should backtrack again and say, if you go to our website, georgia.org/media, you will see a link that says add your location, add your home as a location. And it can be a home or a business. And really anybody in the state can submit their property directly into Real Scout. Again, we ask that you give us as much information as you can. You'll see a lot of fields for address, phone number, a contact, any shooting restrictions. Just as much as you can give us would be very helpful. To send us a piece of property with no contact is not very useful. And to send us one image of a property is not helpful at all. In fact, Craig often won't approve those to go into the database because they're just not going to give the producer what they're looking for. What they want to see are a variety of images. What's most important to them is the wide view. They want to know what's on either side and maybe up and down the street. Maybe they have a scene where the car approaches and pulls up in front. Or if it's a historical film, we may send them a picture of a great southern home, a historical southern home, and neglect to show them that on either side of this house are, crazy glass and steel modern homes. These are the kind of things that are important for them to know. They can't shoot every scene tight, tight, tight. And again, there are often people walking down the sidewalk, cars pulling up, a pan down a neighborhood street. So it's very important to show them these long, wide views and a little bit to the right and the left of the property. They aren't arty pictures, they're not fancy pictures, but they're going to be really helpful to these folks as they nail down where they want to shoot. Yes, one photo, no good. So I want to go through a little bit and show you some things that are good and some things that are bad. And if I'm blocking anybody's view, I'll do this. So this is a nice wide view, and it should come up in a minute and say good at the top of a tree-lined street. The nice thing is that you can see both sides of the street. We may have lost our title here. As well as the sidewalks. So that's a good shot. Nice wide shot of scenic road. There you go. Apparently I have the world's slowest mouse. Next, okay, there we go. This is a great photo of the coastal area. As you can tell, this is a very wide shot. They probably stitched two photos together or had a very wide angle lens on their camera. If you're able to acquire a wide angle lens or borrow somebody's with a wide angle lens, or at least set your camera to as wide as possible, it's terrifically helpful. We couldn't have gotten this view without doing that. There's also photo stitching software that will let you take two images like this and then merge them into one image. That may be what this is. If you want to do that, that's great. It's not entirely necessary. Again, just give us as wide a view as you can. And this is a terrific photo. Good, nice composition. There you go. So this one again, good photo, nice composition. You're going to see exactly what a camera would see if it were shooting that scene. It's important to see the river, the hills, the foliage, and while I mentioned foliage, let me say no snow shots, please, and hopefully, if it's raining, but we try to impress upon people that Georgia is a very temperate climate, and so if we send them a lot of, tobogganing pictures, that's probably not going to do us any good. So just keep that in mind too. We can't do everything in spring and summer, so I get asked all the time, and this is going to trickle down to you guys, and I'm sorry, but they'll say, well, what does that area look like in March, and what does it look like in October? As they try to set a shooting schedule. They may want bare trees, they may want leaves turning, so we send them to websites, the UGA Cooperative Extension Service, that kind of stuff. But we may at some point reach out to you and say, do you still have leaves on your trees at such and such a time? And it will really help determine whether or not they come or don't come. Again, nice shot. You can see everything on both sides of the track. Nice wide angle lens on that one also. Same thing. Now, you see the approach of the house. You see that it's gated, which is important. And you see a little bit of what's on either side. I would, after I took this shot, I would shoot here and I would shoot here, just to show what's going on around the house.
Is there a maximum of pictures, number of pictures in any one spot that you would have?
They say 20. You know, if it's an extremely amazing, we had a woman the other day send us 187 pictures, and it was a really nice property, but I mean, that's just too many. So, you know, ideally it would be, you know, 3 to 20. Yes?
Leah, a lot of the cameras nowadays are able to take landscape shots.
Yeah.
Are those acceptable?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Again, but give us all the looks. Give us the wide and the narrow too. We'll get to that in just a second.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So all photos, they need to be as high resolution as possible, I'm assuming?
Yes, they do. And again, I just printed this little page off our website. If you go to that link that says load my home as a shooting location, the link for people to put projects in Real Scout, there are some tips for what Craig is looking for in terms of photo quality. Most of these I know you're familiar with, but send as many photos per location as you can, up to 20. Any locations with just one photo can't be used. Please don't submit photos shot in inclement weather, snow, fog, rain, etc. Headshots or other photos highlighting people will not be accepted, and you're going to see some examples of that in just a moment. Please only submit location photographs. Yeah, no dogs, no pets, no people. Please send large monitor quality photos so we can see more location detail. I hope that all of you, if you don't already know, will familiarize yourself with photo sizing. There's a variety of programs that do it. Some come with your camera, some you can download for free off the internet, but you need to find a way to resize your photos. And it's helpful too if you can trim them. I take a lot of pictures out my car window when I'm running around and maybe looking for a house of a certain type or whatever, and I often have to trim out my rear view mirror. So it's gonna be important. He specifically says 150 DPI, dots per inch, is optimal. Some cameras take a photo at 350, which is it makes the file too large. It's more than we need for internet quality, and that's what these folks are looking at, is internet and internet link. File size between 200 kilobytes and 1 meg. 1 megabyte should be as large as your photos get. So watch your file size. Sometimes these photo sizing programs will ask you about the image quality. Generally, people save their photos as JPEGs, .jpg, and if you save as a JPEG, it'll say what quality. You can go from 1 to 12, I think. Anything from 7 to 12 is fine. That'll be good enough quality to use. Craig suggests a resolution of 1280 by 1024. I've never noticed that before, but I'm going to write that down. 1280 by 1024, and that's generally it. It says, for general overview photos of a location, such as a town or neighborhood, please submit only pertinent photos for that location type. For example, if a town has a nice river or museum nearby that is not visible from the town streets, please submit that location separately. So, in other words, when I'm searching for museums, I don't want to pull up, because you flagged that, 20 images of, your main street and your city square, and not see a museum, or only see one photograph of a museum. You should take photographs of the museum and put it under museums separately, because we're going to be searching for things that are very specific. So don't lump everything in together that the town has with the photographs of the town square or the town streets. Do those separately. We have churches, we have museums, we have police stations, we have prisons, We have a category that will be suitable for almost everything that you shoot. Again, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. That's the view they're going to want to see right there. You can see that there's plenty of land on both sides of the house. You see the approach. You see the water. When you put that property into Real Scout, if you're uploading it yourself, you would go ahead and note that it's a high-end home and that it has a pond. There's a place where you can add information, keywords. Down in Real Scout, you can add keywords from abandoned, 21st century, which would be something very modern, that it has a pool, that it has a tennis court, that it has a pond. Those are the kind of things that you'll want to drag over and indicate when you're submitting a property. Yes?
Are you all going to be, at any time in the future, taking maybe real short 5-second, 10-second video clips? Or if you wanted to access, if let's say I have a whole bunch of good HD video clips where it's a panning of an area or whatever,
I
do you
doubt
want to look
it.
at those, or they don't want to?
No, I've never seen that. I've never known about it. And it would probably be helpful, but it's going to be a large file. And what happens is these guys pull out their iPad or, maybe a laptop. But everybody's pretty much switched to an iPad. And whoever's with them, the location manager, the producer, the director, they're going to say, oh, well, look at this. And they're going to go through the photos real fast and say, do you want to drive over and see that? They're not going to take the time to watch a video. I mean, these are very quick decisions, and that's why you can't leave a lot for the imagination. If there's something important to show them, you have to capture it with your camera.
When you do like the wide shot like that, include it in your 20 photos, like say if you're doing a museum or jail or something like that, do you want to do interior photos as well?
Yes, you do.
It's another part of the 20?
And again, if it's someplace that you just have to send more than 20 photos, you can, but don't send us 187. Because it's important to get all the looks.
Are they looking for particular shots, like say if your museum oversits, like is on top of a hill overlooking like a prairie or something like that, do you want to do a shot showing the view from,
Yeah,
like, okay.
like out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot that.
Okay.
Anything that's relevant. You would do the outside of the building, the atrium. A lot of times museums have an atrium that can not only be a museum atrium, but substitute for something else. For example, Hartsfield International Airport, the world's busiest airport, we get requests for Hartsfield all the time, and they rarely allow shooting there. There's a lot of FAA stuff, TSA stuff, and they're just busy. And so we often show them photos of the World Congress Center in downtown Atlanta because it has a long road that goes along that works well as a passenger drop-off and pickup. And it has a big, institutional public space that's non-specific that you can easily dress to be an airport terminal. So we more often direct them to the World Congress Center. And so, yes?
If you're shooting a home, should you put in there for exterior or interior only if you only wanted the house to be seen from the outside, but you didn't want them to use the inside of the house?
Yeah, if a homeowner is not going to let me indoor shooting or for some reason it's impossible, there's a field in Real Scout that says usage restrictions. And you would indicate there, exterior only. And that's fine. I mean, sometimes that's all they need. But again, give us multiple shots and not just one.
So
Yes.
you were saying you just go down the road and you're shooting pictures of houses, so should you get permission to go there?
Probably. I probably should have mentioned that.
Okay.
When I'll be out, honestly, the time that I do it the most is I was out a couple weeks ago with a set director. He was the set designer. And he had me going in places that were off my route. And so as I was rolling by, he'd say, ooh, that looks good. And I would shoot it, and I always be sure to get the mailbox number, just as we're driving by, because you'd be surprised how easy it is to forget if you've been driving around all day where you were. And he'll come back and say, oh man, the director loved this one, and I have to remind myself where it was. So that's generally when I'm doing it. Yes?
If you have a couple of historical sites, like we have an old church and we also have an old railroad depot that's been renovated,
Yeah.
would you list those both as historic, or several places as historical buildings, as art centers, and what they were formerly? So how many times do you list them?
Anything you think is relevant. An old train depot would go, of course, under train depots. And then we have a classic, really for residences. It would be like Plantation and Old Southern. We don't have that designation for commercial buildings, but you could list it as a cultural building. So anything you think that it could be used for, it has been used for, it might be used for. You can categorize it as many ways as you like. Yes?
In like a park setting where like a campground is located or a public use type setting, is it best to have those locations and photograph with people there or campers there, or to have them empty? Like no campers there at all and here's your camping area?
You would show the campers parked there, but
Yeah.
people we don't care about.
Or like if a room's set up, does it matter if like a banquet hall would be set up or just picture it empty?
Picture it empty, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. I did want to go back and address something that you brought up about permission, asking permission. Whenever I go, like if I'm going to a campground, the first thing I do is I go to the office and I say, give them my card, and I say, here's what I'm doing. If I'm going to be walking around taking pictures of some place that is owned by somebody, I always go and I get permission first. If I were going to a museum, I would make sure that the folks from the museum knew that I was there. I always do that. But if I am, for example, putting together a historical neighborhood, I am just going to walk down the street and take pictures of the houses or the gas station or whatever, just to give a street view. And I'm going to shoot long, too, so that people can see it. And I'm going to list that under neighborhoods, historic. And of course, I'm not going to go to every house and get an interior view. This is about a neighborhood. This is about exteriors. And I don't, go knock on every door. I walk around with my camera and I take pictures. And if somebody asks me what I'm doing, I tell them. I don't run up into people's driveways and shoot through their window. You need to ask permission for that. But you can walk down the street and take pictures. And if I do have people occasionally say, what are you doing? Because they think you're maybe taking pictures of their house, because you're going to come back and steal their flat screen television or something. So I do tell them. But in terms of permission, always ask if you think it's appropriate. But walking down the street should be fine. So let's take a look at the next one. From my perspective, it should be wider, but Craig thought that was a good one, so. Again, that's either a very wide angle lens or the photo was stitched together, but that is the perfect view of a street. That is just ideal. Again, town square. This is just magnificent. You can see that there's train tracks running through town. There's a depot. There are old buildings. There's plenty of parking. There's foliage. That is a dream shot. I don't think I've ever taken a picture of that. So this house, the producer was asking for a haunted house. This was for a horror movie. And so when he says house shot according to instructions, this is what he means. The house had to be the right kind of house, but the director also specified it had to have a lot of land around it. Apparently there was going to be a lot of running and, screaming and killing, and so this was a great shot to show him, look, not only is this the perfect house, but it's on a piece of property like you've asked for. So that was great. There's another look. Except for the watermark, this does a good job of showing the entire room and flow of the house. Again, that's a very wide angle lens. You may not be able to achieve quite that, but in a perfect world, that's the kind of thing that we would see. Watermarks are a pain. I don't know if your camera puts on any kind of a watermark, it would be better not to have it. A time and a date, it would be better not to have it. For a few reasons, it's distracting, but it also shows sometimes if we've had it in the database for a couple of years, we want everything to look fresh. Like, let's just not add dates. Some properties haven't changed in 20 years, and so we show them over and over again. And it would be better not to show that we took those pictures in 1987. Again, you get a great sense of that property. The large volume of the entry, the big fireplace, a second story. I would assume if you want a space like that, you may have a scene where somebody's talking over the balcony, or that could be important. So to see that in that photo is great. Here we get to bad. This is something that somebody sent us. These are all photographs that we were sent. Craig says not by any of you guys, so I think we're good here. But that was entirely unhelpful. And this one. You know, what are we going to do with that? There are probably 3 million houses, you know, in Georgia that have that room. So that's not very helpful. Somebody sent that to us. We found that to be not as helpful as we would like, although we know what they eat. Yeah, not good. Can you all see that? Pretty straight up bad. That doesn't, you know, we get a lot of pictures like this, and it's not entirely unhelpful. If you're taking interior photos, and we got this photo, it would tell us something about, you know, the house, but not as much as we'd like. If it were a little wider and we could see also into that dining room or see what's to the right, that would be very helpful. You know, again, it also, you know, to get a sense of the flow would be nice. If that is really as small as it looks in this picture, nobody's going to be able to use it for shooting. No snow. We're all good with no snow? We got this, somebody was showing us, I guess, the view out their window, but they didn't send us any pictures of their house. So, you know, this is a good shot to have, but include it, you know, at the end of better. We enjoyed that quite a bit. I'm not sure why that came to our office, but it did. Too close. I think you guys get that. Oh, yeah. Something didn't go right with the photo upload there. That one came in recently, so, you know. I stuck this one in because sometimes, you know, I'll call somebody and I'll say, hey, I'm looking for a loft condo. Can I come shoot your property? And they'll say, you can see it on the website. But on the website, all the photos are very small. And, you know, you get a little thumbnail on the web. And it looks tight and it looks like it has good contrast. But it's not big enough. We can't load those photos into Real Scout. I'm not going to send somebody, you know, to 12 different sites on the internet to look at properties. What I want to do is be able to pull those pictures into Real Scout and send them one package that has all the pictures that are relevant to them. So taking photos off the internet doesn't work. Because by the time they're big enough to actually use in Real Scout, the resolution is too low. So this doesn't work. That was recent.
We want the cat to be fed.
We like this one too. I mean, why would somebody send you their toilet? Yeah, and see, it's just distracting to have that time and date marker down at the bottom. It's not pretty, it's not relevant.
Well, the toilet doesn't even fit in the
So,
bathroom.
at least we know on the 31st that toilet was alive and well. This was lovely, but doesn't do us any good. No art shots, you know. Nice picture, but unfortunately that's not what we're out for. Okay, so again, no people shots. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I mean, you don't have to like make people duck or get out of the way. I mean, sometimes that's not practical, but this was not good for a location submission. Nor this one. Nor this one. You can't see what's going on with the land. You can't see if it's rolling, if it's flat, where the trees are, how big that barn is. It's a lovely picture, but not for a location photo. Not a great submission there. So there's really 3 salient points to leave you with. More than one photo, has to be more than one photo. Generally, Craig won't even approve it to go into Real Scout if it's just one photo. Now, the exception to that is, suppose we call you and say, oh, we're freaking out. We have to, by the end of the day, have a picture of a factory to this, to see if it's even in the realm of possibility. And maybe you can run and take, you can't get permission to go in, but from the street you can take a picture. I mean, if that's the best you can do, of course, send it and we'll pass it along. But generally, don't upload it into Real Scout unless, we're having a dire emergency. And when I say we, I don't just mean the film office. I mean, if you get a call from, directly from a producer or a location manager or a location scout, these are going to be relevant to everybody that you're working with. Interior and exterior shots whenever possible. I think that's pretty straightforward. We'll get, frequently, they may want to shoot. There was a movie called Life as We Know It that shot in Georgia a couple of years ago. And the house that they wanted to use was in a neighborhood where they could not stay for the duration of the shoot. It was too hard to park the trucks. It was disruptive to the neighborhood association. It was going to be too expensive. So what they did was they shot the exterior of the house. And the scenes that were outside scenes they shot on the property. But they could do that in like 2 or 3 days. And then they rented a giant warehouse and they built the interior of the house exactly like it was on a stage. And were able to shoot for weeks, their interiors there. And they went through the house and they took really detailed pictures of how the molding was put together. And they had carpenters recreate that, 2 stories with stairs and everything. So it is possible that they may only want an exterior of a house, but we like to show them exterior and interiors wherever possible. My favorite thing about that Life as We Know It shoot was not only did they recreate the interior of the house, but they will have somebody go around and take a picture of what the outside view is from every window in the house. And they make a scrim, which is a giant curtain that has these images blown up so that, and it's on like a hospital curtain, it's on a rail, so that every shot that they shot, every scene they shot inside had the proper exterior view from that window, and they would pull the scrim around until the right tree was lined up outside the window. So they're very meticulous. And again, shoot wide, show the surroundings, and you stand a much better chance of your location being seen. Can I answer any questions for you, or? Yes, sir?
I just posted a few and I probably ought to get them off.
Okay.
Is there an easy way to delete them?
You know what? Just, I'll do it. I don't think you can do it, but I can do it, so talk to me before I go. Yes?
I have a question and a comment.
Okay.
First of all, thank you so much for everything you do. You really do a great job
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
promoting our entire state. One of the things is the camera ready contact that would make my life a little easier. You were talking about uploading photos and to not make them too large. Just for the future, one thing that might, because when I take photos on my camera, they're about 12 megabytes.
Yeah.
So it would be great if, as I'm uploading very frequently, if there was some kind of mechanism as I upload that it automatically downsizes.
I hear you on that.
And I have to automatically,
I hear you, and we've mentioned that desire, the people who make Real Scout, and they're generally, they value input, but I think that would add a layer of complexity that they're not quite ready to deal with. I hear you on that, and resizing photos, I mean, there are a million ways to do it, and I really encourage you to take the time to, spend an hour and practice getting your photos down to 1 meg, 150 DPI. Yes, sir.
And also with, say if you have a large selection of photos from an area, is it, that obviously it may take some time, they all might be different sizes, but do you always prefer to have everyone sent in, or is there a way, do you ever take a link to a gallery where you all would view it, or they never would do it, look at another gallery where there's already sites categorized?
They all need to be loaded individually into Real Scout, and we actually get asked this a lot. Well, I've already put them on Picasa. You can go look at Snapfish. You could, but the idea again is to be able to send them. What happens is we go through and we click all the things that we think they're going to want to see, and we email them And what they get is just a note with a URL. And Real Scout has custom created a website with the packages, the package that we built for them there. They click on the URL and they can see, and we've categorized it for them too. Everything that's an apartment that they ask for, convenience store. So it's in one location. The thing to remember is that these photos generally get viewed by a lot of different people. In fact, one person on the team may forward that URL to somebody else on the team. And to keep it, if they had to do multiple URLs or have things uncategorized, they just wouldn't do it, honestly. It all needs to be in the same spot. That's what we pay for Real Scout to do, and it does it really nicely. It's a hassle for us, you know, on the other side. I do understand.
And they keep everything in-house as well with the Girl Scouts there. Nothing else is ever done with the photos.
Yeah, it goes on to, we serve it off of our state server. Yes.
Is there a way to search on that to see what pictures you might possibly have out there that someone put out there that you don't know? Like when you were applying for your camera ready designation and some of the photos were submitted, is there a way to check to see what you might have out there for your location?
I think if you're a camera ready contact and you have a Real Scout login, I think you are able to go ahead and search for properties just like anybody else does. You click location at the top and then search. You can search by zip code, you can search by city, you can search by county. I think you guys have access to that functionality.
Okay.
That's a Craig question specifically.
Okay.
He can give you the permission to do it, I think, if you needed to do it once.
Right.
If you don't know.
Just to see what's been submitted.
If we were trying to systematically kind of catalog our community and the buildings in there, what is the best locations to focus on catalog, giving to you first?
Well, we want to see what your downtown looks like. That's important. And I think the next thing we would want to know is what do your neighborhoods look like? What's the, is there some, what's a typical street look like in your town? And if it's a big enough city, you could show us a street of historical homes. You could show us a street of low-end homes. If you have something that's like a housing project, in Atlanta, all those have been torn down. And we get requests for those public housing projects with some regularity. If you still have something like that that you could show us, that would be terrific. Low income and what we call downside homes. We also have a designation for a working class home. We get a lot of requests for that. People aren't just looking for fancy houses and mansions. These are stories that about people from all walks of life, and it's often difficult for us to find something now that can be public housing facility or a low-income neighborhood. So if you've got those, we'd love to see them. I think, again, if you have something significant like a museum, a cultural institution, a theater, if you have an old theater, that would be great, even if it's a movie theater or a performing arts theater. If you go through Real Scout, if you're a camera-ready contact, you can quickly see all the categories that are available. And you know, if you have a great rec center with an outdoor swimming pool, you know, there's almost no limit to what could go into Real Scout.
So
Yes?
with our camera ready key point person, that should be the only person actually submitting photos of our area.
Yes, into Real Scout. They're the only people who have a log on to get in.
So
No,
we submit our photos to them and then they put them out.
right, and you're gonna need to send them to them using these same parameters. Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question. If you're shooting in some rural areas and it's private property, but you're shooting like a river, scene or a creek scene or something,
Yeah.
a lot of these properties have been placed into the Conservation Trust, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's placed in there for tax reasons. So I'm just wondering if, someone wanted to shoot a property or make a film or whatever on a property that was in a Conservation Trust. Do you know what ramifications that has?
No,
Okay.
I don't, honestly. I just really, I don't know. If the
Okay.
property owner would still be able to dictate what happens and, we get requests, for example, for, filming in state parks, federal lands, in the Okefenokee. And we tell people, you know, honestly, there's very little chance you're gonna be able to film in the Okefenokee. And I had a woman recently just freaking out because she said they were filming something that happened at twilight, and the Okefenokee ranger said, you can't do it because after dark, we don't want any lights, we don't want motors. They had a little boat going up the water, and it's too hard to get in and out of the swamp. And so if you need to be in there after dark, we're gonna say no. And she calling us saying, as a state agency, you've got to be able to do something, and we can't. You know, those are, you know, just because we show you a picture of a location doesn't necessarily mean that you can film there. It means that this is a look we have in the state of Georgia, and we're happy to pass along contact information. And beyond that, we're not guaranteeing that you can or can't be there. Of course, if you know something is never ever usable, I mean, I wouldn't put it in Real Scout, but other than that, let them deal with the property owner and work out the details themselves. These location managers have negotiated contracts with some very difficult folks, and they'll figure it out, or they'll be denied. Yes?
So at the beginning, you said that we could go to georgia.org/media and add home as a location.
Yeah.
Now you're saying we need that we can't do that unless we are the
No, no.
designated person.
You can, here's what I would say about that, is anybody can upload their property into our database if they want their home or their business to be used as a shooting location. I would tell the rest of you maybe use that a little bit judiciously for a couple of reasons, because your camera ready coordinator would like to know what people around the community are putting into Real Scout. And it's very helpful if you work through your camera ready coordinator, just so when we make the call to the camera ready coordinator, they know. They can say, oh, so-and-so just sent me a great dairy farm. You should see it. So from an information standpoint, the other thing is that, you know, generally our camera ready contacts are, they've been trained, they've been vetted, and they, you know, may generally, and I would say in this room you're probably all fine, but to other folks, you know, you can't just willy-nilly like say, oh, I bet you might be interested in this and put it into Real Scout. We have a camera ready program to be a funnel, but you can use it a little bit. Yeah.
You said no animal or limit animals, and then you said dairy farm. If you took a picture of, say, a large pasture and you showed the thing, but you were able to say there's dairy or there's horses or there's, you know, steers, so that if they're looking for that type of look,
Yeah,
I mean,
if you're shooting an equestrian facility, if you're shooting a dairy farm, we will want to see,
Okay.
you know, those things. But I wouldn't go up and do that thing where you get close to a cow's nostrils. You know what I mean? Like, it's cute, but nobody's really that interested in it. But if you can shoot down a slope, we can see a field full of cattle. That's great. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you guys for what you do. We really appreciate it, and we know that we call sometimes in a panic when you've got other things to do and say you have to help us, and we're grateful. So thanks.
thank you.